All right. Great evening. We're here another late night. It is day 26 of 28 days of self love. And we're glad to be here. I'm glad to be here, although it is 11 o'clock, but I wanted to make it here on tonight, just to be able to share briefly with you day number 26. But before we go into that, let's go ahead and start with our National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number. And that number is, I'm pretty sure you probably know it by heart if you've been watching me for the last 25 nights. That number is 1 800 273 8255. Again, the number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1 800 273 8255. Guess what? You are necessary, you are needed, you are important, and you are loved. If you need some assistance or need someone to talk to, reach out to someone, talk to a friend, a close family member, or someone to encourage you. If not, a counselor, a therapist, or even call that number that I just mentioned. There's help for you. All right, let's jump into our content for tonight for day 26, which is recognize your value. Recognize your value is our topic for tonight. And this is something I thought about this week as we were celebrating Black History Month on campus. And I really do know that my presence is important wherever I go, and I do not question that. I do know that I bring a different sauce wherever I go and with whatever I do. Not that I'm conceited or anything like that, but what I am is sure of who I am. And honestly, I can't do what I do, and I'm not who I am. It's for the grace of God that I am who I am. So I make no apologies for who He created me to be, so I can walk in what He has called me to do and the spaces that He's called me to take space in. So um, I've just had an opportunity just to think about where I am and where I work. I have opportunity to just provide help to students, and it's just been great this week watching them being able to celebrate their own heritage as we were celebrating Black History Month there. And it made me really think about my value being there. Like, um, for some of the students, they don't have a teacher who looks like them. They don't have someone that they can talk to on a daily basis that look like them. So when I am there, they take that opportunity to talk to me. I know that I am valued there, and that's just one example. And I started talking about, I know that I have the sauce. So when I think about making a recipe, let's see, something like a sweet potato pie for those of you who eat sweet potato pie. Whenever you mix up that recipe, if you don't have that cinnamon or you don't have that nutmeg, it's not gonna come out tasting right. It's definitely not. You're gonna have a pie, but it's not gonna have all the ingredients. And I do know that whenever you're making up that pie, if you're missing that, when you sit down, get ready to take a bite out of it, and you have great expectations, and that ingredient is missing, then that is definitely not going to taste right. And so when I look at each of us as individuals, we bring a different ingredient. We have to recognize our value in the space that we take up, or in the things that we're called to do. The people that we come in contact with. If you know your value, then you won't be moved by a lot of things. So let's talk about recognizing our value. So here are some signs that you haven't recognized your value. The first one would be feeling uncomfortable or self-conscious around others. So when you don't understand your value or know who you are, you have a tendency to feel uncomfortable or self-conscious when you're around others. Another way that you can tell that you haven't recognized your value yet is avoidance of new places, relationships, or situations. Now, that's not always the case of not knowing your value. There could be some other things that you haven't overcome, but knowing your value does help when you're introduced into new situations. Another thing when you don't recognize or understand your value is that you seek validation from others. You have a constant need for reassurance. So if you don't understand your value, you're always looking for someone to say, great job, or you did well, or and all those. It's nice to be congratulated or to be told that you've done a great job. That is nice. But when you're seeking that on a continual basis, then that might show that you really don't know your value. So deep feelings of shame or not feeling good enough. So if you have constant feelings of not being good enough, you might not know your value or the value that you bring to the table. You might also have discomfort with the inability to accept compliments from others. So on the other token, you're looking for someone to say good job, but you might not be able to accept the compliments that people do give if you don't understand and know your value. Then you can also become a people pleaser. So those who don't understand their values, have a tendency to become a people pleaser. And then lastly, they're sensitive to criticism, or have a fear of being judged. So knowing your value is very, very important. You recognize when you recognize your value, you are confidently have full belief in the things that you know. So you have confident and full belief in your knowledge, in your skills, in your experience, and that you make a difference um, wherever you are. So when you know your value, some of the things that you do is you walk differently when you know your value. You also talk differently. You act differently when you know your value, and you're not easily distracted. So when you know the value that you bring to a group of people or a place, so wherever you are, when you know your value, you're not worried about what the next person is doing. So you focusing on the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you act, and you're not easily distracted. And so that's what I wanted to share with you on tonight. So when you know your value, you won't accept being treated with disrespect, or you won't tolerate being undervalued by someone. When you recognize your value, you look at yourself as an equal as well, and not someone who is less than or better than. And I'll say that one again because that one is important. So we're talking about recognizing our value. When you recognize your value, you look at yourself as an equal and not someone who is less than anyone else or better than anyone else. You are sure in the skin that you're in. You're sure with the space that you take up. You're sure about the things that you know. You're sure about your skills. You're sure about your abilities, and you are sure that you make a difference in whatever you do. So that's what I have on tonight. Recognize your value and be the part of that ingredient, be that ingredient in that recipe to make that dish something amazing. If no one has told you yet today, and again, I know it's late, but it's not 12 o'clock yet. Let me be the first to say, you are necessary, you are needed, and you are loved. I love you and have a great night.